If you love America and believe in the values that made it great, join AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. AMAC is the conservative alternative to AARP, and it's not just for seniors, it's for anyone who believes in faith, family, and freedom. Members get exclusive discounts, helpful resources, and the excellent AMAC magazine delivered to your door. And right now you can join for as little as $1.20 a month for a 5-year membership. Support the movement that's standing up for America. Visit amac.us/Charlie and join today. How we doing, Michigan State? All right, you guys know how it works. If you want to ask a question, we have a line forming here. If you disagree, you can go to the front of the line. Let me just say this is a much bigger crowd than we'd get in Ann Arbor. Much bigger crowd. We don't like them over here, right? We don't like them. Great to be here, guys. Oh, actually, is the question line both sides? On this side, okay. Over there. Thank you, guys. We'll be here for a little bit, and thanks for being here, guys. You bet.
Hi, what's up, Charlie? My name is Roderick. And so for over 10 plus years, I identified as a gay man, and then I gave my life to Jesus and left the LGBTQ plus community. And my question to you is, what is your response to those who say that conservatives and God hates everyone in the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, I think it'd actually be better for you to respond to that because you've received it and you're no longer of that. Here's the true but more provocative answer, that your identity should not be in your sexual proclivity. It should actually be, your identity is much greater than just what you do in the bedroom. Being gay is a behavior more than anything else. And you, I guess, are evidence, and I'd love to hear your story, that you could stop acting on that behavior. So tell the audience more about, you would identify as gay and as not. Tell us about that path and that journey, because I'm told that can never happen.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people tell me that you are what you feel. You are your attractions. You know, you're quote unquote born with it. You know, there's just many reasons why you have same-sex attraction that will never leave you, and that is who you will always be. And I believe that lie for almost 10 plus years of my life. I slept with men many times, watched a lot of porn, dwelt in a lot of sexual sin, and just gave my body up because that's what I thought love was. And that's what I thought it looked like until I met Jesus. And he helped me to see that I was never meant to identify as a gay man, but I was always meant to be a son of his and have a new identity and a new life in him. And I walked away from that lifestyle for over 5+ years now, and I have never looked back because Jesus is way better than the sexuality that I was partaking in.
Praise God. Are you happier and more joyful that you're no longer participating in a homosexual lifestyle?
Oh, 100%. Like before I met Jesus, I was filled with so much depression, anxiety. I wanted to kill myself multiple days of the week, but Jesus came and healed all the brokenness inside of me, and I love being a son of his rather than identifying as a gay man.
Well, and so to answer your question, there is not hatred. There is still what we have as conservatives and Christians is a simple understanding that God has a certain sexual ethic that we should try to abide by. Everybody has temptations that you have. They have proclivities that you have. Some people are more likely to gamble. Some people are more likely to be compulsive liars. You don't have to act on those temptations. I am curious though, so in your own sexuality right now, do you still feel attracted to men? And I'm asking because just because you feel an attraction doesn't mean you need to act on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, so yes, I would say that I still do have attractions towards men. It's not as much as it used to be 5 years ago, but I've learned that it's not really about whether or not I have attractions towards men still. It's more so about whether I have a relationship with Jesus, which I do, and that relationship with him far exceeds any attractions that I acted on in the past. And my life with him is so much better. And just because you become a Christian, leaving the LGBTQ plus community, that doesn't mean that your same-sex attractions will go away, but it does mean that you will have a God who loves you, who will walk with you, and who will give you eternal life through him.
And let me just say one other thing, very important thing. We want people to be free from sin because sin means suffering, and then when you are captive to sin. For example, I, like many men in this audience, struggled with pornography, 10 years ago, whatever, getting through that. We all have something we struggle with. You should never affirm the struggle. You should try to break free of the struggle, and only Christ Jesus is able to do that. Thank you so much for your time today.
Can I get
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yes, let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nervous. All right. Sorry, it's first time. A little nervous. All right, so I have a friend named Thomas Sheedy. He is the founder of an organization called Atheists for Liberty. He is openly conservative, but he's mostly interested in atheist activism and normalizing atheism in all sects, including the conservative movement. He seems to be under the impression that a lot of conservatives, including you, are more hesitant to work with atheist organizations. Is there any truth to that?
Yes and no. I mean, if you're an atheist and you want to be part of the conservative movement, go ahead. But you must be an honest atheist and acknowledge that morality is definitionally subjective without a belief in God. You cannot be an atheist and believe in objective morality. It is an impossibility. And true atheists will acknowledge this. At some point, you have an ought claim. Well, things ought to be a certain way. We as Christians, or we that believe in the divine, we have is claims, that murder is wrong. Whereas an atheist will say, well, murder ought to be wrong, because you can't have an objective definition if there is not a divine eternal power over you. So look, if an atheist wants to fight alongside of us to end abortion or to try and end the massacring of our kids, that's called gender-affirming care, or if an atheist wants to march alongside of us to say no men and female sports, they're more than welcome to be able to do that. But Atheists for Liberty is an interesting phrase, because I don't believe you can have liberty without God, because liberty is not man's idea, it is God's idea. That's just my own personal belief, and it's also the belief of everything that built this nation. But yes, I know a lot of good atheists. The question, though, is how do you know they're good? It's because you're appealing to a moral authority above just the secular material realm, one that is transcendent, we would believe, given by God.
Well, I don't believe in objective morality. I do know there are plenty of atheists who are moral objectivists.
Are you an atheist? Sorry to interrupt. But
Oh, yeah.
okay, cool. So let me can I ask you a question? And I know this is your first time at the mic, so I'm just going to try to be tender in doing this.
Okay, appreciate
that. So
that.
you don't believe in objective morality, right?
I personally don't.
Okay. Was the Holocaust objectively wrong?
Objectively, no, but it would have been better if it didn't happen, because most people wouldn't want that to happen.
So that's where we are on different planets. And that's okay. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm trying to be graceful in the way that we're going about this. Sure. Do you think Hitler was objectively evil?
No, because it's subjective.
But I just hope all of you guys understand he's being an honest atheist to your credit, because as an atheist, you're not allowed to say anything is objectively right or wrong. I come from a worldview that when you butcher 6 million people, that is objectively wrong no matter what. And it's very important. It's a very important truth claim, because when you do not have objective truth anchoring your society, then it becomes a power struggle. If you do not have truth, then power will reign. Whoever can get the most amount of power then ends up having the most amount of say over society. We believe what is objectively right, true, good, and beautiful should be transcendent over society. Your thoughts?
So do you believe objective morality specifically comes from the Bible?
Yes and no. It's in nature, and the Bible explains nature. So objective morality can be discovered in many different cultures and societies, pointing towards what we believe is the ultimate objective truth, Jesus Christ. C.S. Lewis explained this the best in his book Abolition of Man, which is that almost every religion talks about a certain way to live, a Tao or a path that we should be on. And so more simply than just the Bible, we believe in what the founders believed, which is an ethical monotheism, that there is one God. He has a general way that he wants you to live. For example, murdering is bad, kidnapping is wrong, defense of the innocent, and we should do our best to try to live alongside of that path.
Okay, well, I think those are very interesting examples. You bring up the founders, you bring up Hitler, but Hitler was a self-proclaimed Catholic, and he called Nazism a Christian movement.
Yeah, I would be careful saying that. He was not. That's okay.
He called himself a Catholic. He specifically said in 1927, our movement is Christian. They had on the belt buckles God on our side.
Yeah,
they had to swear to the Almighty God. Atheists were not trusted to be in the SS.
Even if I grant you that, despite the fact that he killed a lot of pastors and priests, and there, of course, you can pervert things in the name of God. No one denounces that. Just as a side note, though, far more people died under the banner of atheism than Christianity in the 20th century. Mao was an atheist, Stalin was an atheist, Pol Pot was an atheist. Believing in no God actually led to the destruction and the murder of well over 100 million people. And that's fine. So, again, if atheists want to come alongside us as conservatives and fight for what is good, that is great. But I will never acknowledge that atheists can tell me what is objectively good. They can only give me a preference. They cannot tell me what is right. And preferences eventually will lead you towards moral and societal decline.
Okay, so I think you just listed a bunch of communists, and it's worth acknowledging the vast majority of atheists are not communists, just like the vast majority of Christians are not theocrats who don't support the divine right. It's also worth acknowledging that the founders were actually inspired by Enlightenment values, not by the Bible. America was founded as a secular nation. We were the first, quote-unquote, godless constitution.
Yeah, again, I've done this so many times, so I don't know if we want to waste our time doing this, but 55 out of 56 of the signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. 9 out of 13 of the states at the time of ratification required a declaration of faith in order for you to serve in the states. Our birth certificate, which is the Mayflower Compact, said explicitly, we are here to spread Christianity throughout the land. It was the first great revival that led to the American Revolution of Jonathan Edwards and Jonathan Mayhew and George Whitefield that preached all across the eastern seaboard. John Adams famously said, the Constitution is written solely for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate for the people of any other. We were a Christian nation that was able to embrace the idea of a free society. God is mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Not only that, Jesus Christ is mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, where it says we appeal to the divine judge of the universe, which of course is a direct appeal to Jesus in the book of Revelation. Yes, there were rationalist Enlightenment values that informed some of the founders, but it irrefutably was a Christian nation. Maryland was Catholic. Pennsylvania was Quaker. Almost every state had their own specific type of Christian preference. The idea of an atheist or not believing in any God was an idea that was so foreign to the founders. Even Thomas Jefferson, the great deist, he revered the Bible, albeit with some significant edits. However, the idea of believing in no cosmological or no axiological or no teleological or no ontological being would be a concept that our founding fathers would not just find foreign, they would find it extraordinarily dangerous. Why? Because the French Revolution was happening simultaneously as the American Revolution, which was explicitly atheist. They actually recreated their own gods and they said, we are going to appeal to what? The God of reason. And this is my final contention, is that when I talk to atheists, the French Revolution is a great example. They literally tried to change the Gregorian calendar to a 10-day week. They went and imprisoned people of faith. They put priests in jail, all these different sorts of things. They said, we are going to appeal to the God of reason. Well, how did that work out? It worked out with the guillotine and the slaughter of tens of thousands of people. The French Revolution was one of the greatest disasters in human recorded history. Contrast that with the American Revolution. Why did the American Revolution create the greatest nation ever to exist in the history of the world? And the French Revolution resulted in a lot of blood and even the killing of their own once leader, Maximilien Robespierre. It's because we were anchored on Christian ideas. If you are not anchored on Christian ideas, then don't be surprised when all of a sudden there is no fruit to the harvest that you're trying to create. Thank you for your time. I want to try to get to the next question. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Adam. I'm a first-year chemical physics major here at Michigan State, and I have extreme moral if you're in chemical physics, a lot of the time you go into material science. So I have extreme moral quandaries with Trump's repealing of the conflict mining regulations. Can you explain why you think
I know nothing about that. So the conflict mining. So I mean, I know a lot about what Trump's doing.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with all the things he's signing. As you know, he signs like 500 things a day, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this sarcastically. Just educate me and the audience on it, and I'll give you the best response I can.
Okay. During the Obama administration, Obama recognized that there was problems with minerals being sourced from unethical mining practices. It costed about like $6 to $9 billion a year of American taxpayer money trying to figure out that the minerals that we get for major companies like Apple and stuff.
So like cobalt, for example.
Cobalt, I actually don't think is one of them. I think tungsten.
Well, cobalt is mined in a very unethical way.
Well,
so
yeah,
that's why I ask. So
100%. Yeah.
Cobalt. I mean, if you ever see the video, sorry to interrupt, of cobalt mines, you have thousands of very poor young people that are exposing themselves to dangerous toxins. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, no, cobalt mining also really bad, but most of this is mining that takes place in Africa, specifically Well, cobalt, we get the majority of our cobalt from Bolivia, I believe, but most of this mining takes place in the DRC, where China has a control of most of the rare earth minerals. I think it's like 95%. And so Trump removed the regulations saying that we have to get our minerals in an ethical way. And I do not want to work in a country where we get our minerals from unsafe mining practices just because it saves a couple
Thank you for
dollars.
educating me on that. So I'd have to look at what Trump signed. Is that about American exploration of rare earth minerals, or is that an international mandate?
So there is an international mandate for conflict minerals. So like the EU has a conflict minerals regulation policy, yeah, and then the United States has one that Trump just said he's not following anymore.
So knowing dangerously little about this, let me ask a speculative question. Do you think there is one of the reasons he would sign something as you would attribute it, which I don't know enough about it, is because he wants to try to keep up with China that has unlimited amounts of a flow of rare earth minerals?
Without a doubt, but I don't think that, ethically it is worth trying to keep up with China if you're going to get minerals from mining practices that are run by terrorist organizations.
Yeah. Fair point. So I guess the question is, how then do we keep up with China? Because rare earth minerals are going to determine the future. We need them for AI chips. We need them for drones. How do we keep up if not through this practice? What would you recommend? Or would you say, hey, we're going to do it the slower, more ethical way, and if we lose to China, we lose to China?
Honestly, I think I'm going down that path.
Okay.
Just because
I don't know if I agree with that because I don't know enough about it, but you are morally consistent.
Yeah, I do think that we should just try to continue getting. I mean, 95% of the mineral the mining in the DRC for these rare earth minerals does come from China. But again, if we look at the foreign policy of China in Africa, they're investing in the area. There's a massive public
for sure.
Of
So
them as,
you have my promise. I'm going to look more into it.
Okay.
I will say though that we have a lot of rare earth minerals here in this country.
Yeah, we do.
That we should definitely extract. That the environmentalists have been very worrisome. Would you like to see us use rare earth minerals in this country?
I mean, I completely understand the
push.
I understand the push, but I also understand how native people would have problems mining in the caldera, called whatever the hell, you know what I mean?
Well, we have rare earth minerals in Texas, for example,
Yeah.
that we can't really develop because of environmental standards.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be better, because we would definitely have better ethical works guidelines than the DRC, we should use American rare earth minerals?
Again, I side with I'm a environmentalist as well, so I understand wanting to keep the area safe from. I mean, if we're looking at lithium mining, which is probably what you're referencing, if it's in Texas, and lithium mining from Nevada is the place where people are saying there's a lot of lithium. Again, that isn't even the mineral that I'm talking about. Lithium you can source from places other than Africa.
So let me just close with this. You're very consistent, to your credit. I will probably take the other side of the opinion, not invalidating yours. Even though there might be exploitation and an environmental impact, I think losing to China would be worse than all of that. Because us being a captive country to the Chinese Communist Party, I think would be demonstrably bad for us and the planet. What you are demonstrating.
For the planet?
For the planet, yeah.
How so?
Well, if the CCP takes over the planet, through their Belt and Road Initiative, look what they're doing in the DRC. You're proving my point, right?
They're making the DRC have better infrastructure.
They use slave labor unrepentantly, right? The Chinese do. They will take over a poor country, take captive the airport, pay them almost no wages. The CCP are bad masters. You do not want to be a third world country and have the CCP roll it. It's bad for everybody, right? You basically become a captive state, a emissary state of the Chinese Communist Party. I guess that is an interesting question. Would you rather see America or China be the world superpower?
This is going to get a lot of crowd. I think if you look at it through a lens where you think that imperialism is bad, I think the United States is going down a worse route. The public perception of China in Africa, which developing nations are in Africa, they view China in a much brighter light than they do the United States due to things like the dams that they're making, the railways that they're making.
For sure. I mean, the money's flowing for now, but the Chinese are a 100-year plan. They'll build you a new airport. They'll build a new highway, and then they own you, right?
Well, and I mean, we do the same thing.
We are not nearly as nakedly colonialist as the Belt and Road Initiative. I mean, not even close, especially in the last 100 years, 50 years. But I would just say this, as an environmentalist, think deeply about China has hundreds of coal-fired power plants, right?
Per capita, though, China has a much lower energy output than the United States, and they're investing heavily in thorium nuclear reactors,
their pollution per capita is way more than ours.
That is just false.
Okay, I encourage you to go to any major Chinese city, you know there's days where you cannot leave your apartment or your home in China because there's so much industrial smog.
Yeah.
It's like half the days a year.
They also have like
But
3 times as many
can you-
people as we do.
Right, but can you point to a single U.S. city that I know of where for many days a year you can't leave the home because there's industrial smog?
I completely agree that that's bad, but I am just addressing the fact that objectively per capita, China has less energy output and they're getting energy from cleaner sources than the United
No, I
States.
totally acknowledge that. One of the reasons why is they're so poor. Of course, they have no energy output. They don't drive cars. They're not flying planes. 600 million people in China live in third world poverty. Half the country does. So we just disagree. I appreciate the contention. I will look into it, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello. Sorry. Hello, Mr. Kirk. My name is Alex. A question I had for you: the Trump administration recently has been initiating deportation proceedings against lawfully present immigrants for what is clearly constitutionally protected speech. Do you think that that's consistent with our Constitution and our values as Americans?
Got it. So I wasn't sure what. So there's like 5 cases that you could have went with, but I'm guessing you're talking about Mahmoud Khalil and the students, right?
Mahmoud Khalil is one case, but recently student visas have been revoked at this campus and at the University of Michigan.
I'm glad they're revoked here. So, yes, of course it's consistent with the Constitution because they're not U.S. citizens. They're visitors. So as a visitor, you have to be a visitor on our terms. And if you break that compact, you are returned back to your country of origin. A student visa is a conditional invitation. We're going to see who you are, how you act, and how you behave. And if you behave in a way that the government deems to be unsatisfactory, of course you're going to be returned back to your country of origin.
What I would say to that, one, the Supreme Court and our Constitution is very clear that constitutional rights apply to everyone within the United States' jurisdiction.
To a limited extent. For example, you're correct. If a student on Michigan State campus has a student visa and they get charged with a crime, they get due process. You are correct. They get Fifth Amendment rights. But can they own a gun?
I think restrictions on their ownership of
They cannot.
firearms
Can they
is
vote?
constitutional. They cannot vote.
So there
But-
are restrictions on rights for visitors. So to an extent, you are correct, but it is not the same rights that we as U.S. citizens are granted. Does that make sense? There
That-
are limitations on those rights.
That makes sense, particularly in the exercise of political rights, like voting, which
For
is
sure.
an exercise of
but,
political
but
power.
second to that is also political advocacy. As a visitor, you do not have unlimited free speech rights. You don't. They are conditional to you being expelled. And the specific act that you're talking about says that if the government deems the speech of the individual to be contrary to U.S. foreign policy interests, which I think advocating for Hamas is against the U.S. foreign policy interest, then we can send you back to your country of origin. Now, you would have a case if we were all of a sudden deporting or imprisoning U.S. citizens. I would be right there with you saying that you can support Hamas all you want as a U.S. citizen. You have a right to do that. But if you're a visitor, you're here on a trial basis. Your tryout is going. We're looking at how you're behaving. And if we look as if that it's inconsistent with how we want people to assimilate to this country, then you go back to Libya or Syria or wherever you're from.
I'd like to make 2 points in response to that. First, the Supreme Court at least suggested in a case called Kleindienst versus Mandel in the 1950s that the First Amendment does apply to immigrants, to people who are not citizens, and that they do receive First Amendment protections. But second, I want you to think about the kind of country we live in. If the Secretary of State can deport any non-citizen they want for their speech, you would have police and ICE going up to people at protests on campuses, including protests you might agree with, and asking people for their papers. I think that that's completely inconsistent with the values you've talked about of freedom of speech. And I think that's not the kind of country that most people would want to live in.
It's a fair point. I have a different perspective. Do you think there should be any, let's just push your contention to the largest possible logical extreme. Should we be able to have any reason to deport a student who here's on visa?
Yes, absolutely.
What would that mean? By what criteria would it be? Probably like committing a crime, right?
If they commit a crime,
Fair
if
enough.
they committed a visa application fraud,
Great.
there's many reasons
So
that you can deport people.
So let's like wind the clock back a little bit. to maybe World War II, and let's say that a student, this is a hypothetical, so it's not a great one. Let's actually do more recent. Let's say during the Iraq-Afghanistan war, okay? Where we were in a bitter battle against Al-Qaeda right after 9/11. I don't think we ever should have invaded Iraq for the record, but that's a separate issue. Let's say a student was here on a student visa from Afghanistan saying that they support Al-Qaeda. Is that worthy of deportation?
I would say it would depend on the factual circumstances. If you could prove that they gave material support to Al Qaeda,
Well, by
then they obviously should go.
advocating for Al-Qaeda as a student visa.
Mere advocacy, I would say should not warrant deportation.
Okay,
but
we just disagree. That's fine.
but I would say it's worth pointing out that the Trump administration is not invoking the provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act that allows you to deport people for supporting terrorism. They are not invoking that. They are invoking instead
the Secretary
yeah,
of
the
State
Secretary
provision.
Of State.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
So if all these people supported terrorism, why not invoke the provision that says you can deport people?
Well, you guys can come up. Come wait in line.
terrorism.
It's fine. Okay, we'll send some medical help. We got it. Yeah. All right. Let's not draw our eyes there. It actually makes it worse. So let's just keep going. Pray for that person. We'll get them medical help. Thank you, guys. More attention actually makes these situations sometimes worse. So we just disagree, and that's fine. I believe that if you are on campus advocating for Hamas, that basically you as a visitor should not come to this country, period.
All right.
I think it's a pretty simple claim.
Last brief point. Mahmoud Khalil was a lawful permanent resident with a green card. Does that change your analysis at all? You're fine
No.
with so he's not necessarily a guest in the same way as someone with the
Well,
student
a
visa.
green card is a guest. It's not a U.S. citizen.
Okay, so if you're fine, would you be fine with Kamala Harris if she was elected president, saying my foreign policy interest is we're against racism, so we will be deporting any conservative
that's the best
student on
argument you can make.
campus?
That's the best argument that you've made.
So what would your argument be to a hypothetical President Harris?
To a hypothetical, I mean, first of all, is racism a foreign policy objective of the U.S. government? I mean, under Kamala Harris, I could see her saying something as insane as that.
I mean,
So-
the Trump
No, I'm saying
administration cited
you're-
anti-Semitism,
you're
which is
ma-
basically the same thing.
You're making a good point.
Okay, all right, thank you. So you would have no principled response to a hypothetical President Harris.
My principled response would be that's not a national security foe that you could target, like Hamas. However, to your point, could this provision be abused in the future? Yes. Why am I largely in support of it? Even more than the specifics, I think we need to push back on this idea that you can behave however you want while you're a visitor, and there's nothing we can do to expel you. That's my larger macro premise, that while you are a student here, or whatever, a visitor, we have a right to send you back to your country of origin if you don't fit into agreed upon American values. But you made a good point. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hi. You said something earlier about, this was previously, you said that we have a moral obligation to support the state of Israel. And I just wanted clarification whether you meant the we as in like Americans, Christians, like what you meant.
I would say believers as Christians. I mean, look, Catholics are going to disagree with that, and that's fine, but correct.
So I'm a Protestant, and I would disagree that we have to like unconditionally support the state of Israel.
We should absolutely not unconditionally support the state of Israel.
Okay, yeah, then we agree
Yeah.
with that.
I mean, if any state does something that is against our worldview or our values, but as a Protestant, I don't know what flavor you are, but I'm evangelical. We have a long buffet line as Protestants, right?
Yeah.
We believe the reconstitution of Israel was prophetic, and the creation of the state of Israel in the 1950s was a fulfillment of Bible promises and prophecy.
So I'm not 100% sold on the idea that the state of Israel we have today is the Israel that is talked about.
You might be right.
In the Bible, right?
So
So there's some variation.
So just to
in
be
there.
clear, there's closed-hand issues when it comes to theology and open-handed issues.
Right.
Open-hand issues are like Israel, eschatology, is the Eucharist the body and blood of Christ? I don't think those things actually merit whether or not you're going to heaven. Closed-hand issues, was Jesus Christ the Son of God? Did he rise from the dead? Was Mary a virgin? Those are closed-hand issues.
Christ is king.
Christ is king, exactly. So I'm happy to have spirited, fun conversation about open-hand issues, but I don't think we should ever condemn people if we have disagreements on open-hand issues.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
No,
to,
for sure, I know.
Yeah. Okay. So the problem that I have is that just sending the support through the government in general, I don't think that we should do that as Christian. You know, we're sending money to develop weapons, and we're sending weapons to Israel so then they can destroy like people and lives over there, right?
So in your view, should we give any military aid to other countries?
So.
And if the
Here's the
answer is
thing.
no, that's okay. A lot of people hold that view.
Is I don't think that like me as a constituent of a representative, right? If I feel I have my own personal favor towards a country that's in a war or whatever, I can send money individually, right? The problem that I have is that the taxes that I pay, right, they're going towards the government, and my representative has everything to gain from sending millions of dollars over to Israel because they get paid by AIPAC and stuff. And, you know, that just assure, you know, that's another key for them to get into re-election, right? So they have a lot more to gain from supporting Israel than I would, right?
Yeah, I mean, but those constituents also have voters that are very pro-Israel too. And you must understand, more so than AIPAC, the conservative movement, let's just say the Christian part of the conservative movement is overwhelmingly pro-Israel. And so they're responding to also what their constituents want as well. If these representatives were, you know, pro-Israel and it was unpopular, they would be primaried out. Your problem seems to be more with the voters of the Christian conservative Republican movement, which is fine. And granted, the younger you get in the conservative movement, the less pro-Israel you are.
Yeah.
The older you are, the more pro-Israel you are. But albeit still, there is a pro-Israel bloc within the conservative movement that is quite strong.
Okay, so right, the thing that I'd say in response to that. Now, I don't got like the exact study name or survey name on the tip of my fingers, but I had read that right between younger evangelical Christians, right, support went down from like 75.
That's correct.
To like,
I just granted you that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So, you would say that for your theology, though, that it is biblical to support them.
Well, I mean, Genesis 12:3, it says, I will bless those who bless you. In the book of Numbers, it says the same. Paul says, bless the Jews as they are the keepers of the law. I mean, all throughout biblical prophecy, we talk about supporting the nation of Israel. So yes, absolutely.
So I would say I have like a couple problems with that.
Again, I don't want to do too much theological stuff because people are going to get bored. So
That's
why don't
true.
you make one final point and then we'll get to the next question.
Okay, I'll make one final point, which is like people think that Israel, right, the state of Israel is reserved for like the Israelites specifically, and that it's their land and stuff like that. Would you agree with that?
Yes, the reconstitution of the state of Israel is fulfillment of biblical prophecy for the Jewish people.
Okay, so here's where the disagreement with me lies. Is there's stuff in Leviticus that talks about the land that Israel inhabits, right? It's God's land. It's not for the Israelites, right? It's God's land at the end of the day.
Of course, yes, but God
When
has leased it out to the nation of
Exactly.
Israel. Yeah.
So when they get kicked out, whether it's by the Assyrians, these people, that people,
Or the Romans in AD 70.
exactly, right? That is acceptable because that was what God
Got it.
had.
But
right?
then here's our response. We'll close with this.
Yeah.
There is specific biblical prophecy that said, after the scattering, I will bring you back together. Right? That's what we believe was the fulfillment of that prophecy. So Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, I will throw some hats out in a second. Disagreements, guys, can work to the front of the line. Yep, go ahead.
All right, afternoon, Charlie. I want to start off by saying I think November's mandate is large in part due to your work and the great voters of Michigan. And so my question has to do with government spending. Doge has found like $300 trillion in fraud and waste that they're to eliminate. And the new tariffs are supposed to bring in $2 billion a day. So by that math, it would take over 50 years to balance our current deficit of 37 trillion. So my question is, what else is being done?
Yeah, so
to
there's
help
debts
that?
and deficit. Our deficit's about $1.8 trillion. Our debt is 37. So they're two distinct things. So a deficit is your annual burn. Our debt is our total cumulative debt burden.
So what other things are being done to kind of
Well,
lessen
we
the
need to
blow?
dramatically cut spending, which the one thing I will push back a little bit of what this administration is doing. I don't think we need to increase defense spending. I don't. I think we need to cut in
I
the
was gonna
Pentagon.
mention that, yeah.
No, I do. I think that we need to cut a lot of foreign aid. We need to cut defense spending. And the most unpopular thing is I think we need to take a real look at Medicare and Medicaid fraud. People get really mad when I talk about that. There is so much fraud when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid. The biggest thing is this. You guys are going to inherit a bankrupt country unless we make severe and significant spending cuts and get closer towards a balanced budget. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
My last thing.
Yeah.
My lovely lady wants a red hat.
Okay, you got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right. All right, here we go.
Hello, Mr. Kirk. I came a long way to see you. Well, I go to school here, but I'm from Texas.
So you like walked across the campus.
Pretty much. So, I have a definition for you, and then I'll go from there. So, fascism, as described, is a political system based on a very powerful leader, state control, and being extremely proud of the country and race, in which political opposition is not allowed. Now, I am not saying Trump is inherently fascist and the administration is fascist. But what I've been seeing is the introductory steps to fascism. He's tried to make the executive branch more a controlling power and even trying to test the judicial limits that he appointed. The chief judge had to tell him to rein it in, and he's the one that was appointed by Trump. His own judges are saying, you need to stop this. He's consistently been going against American values that have been in place for hundreds of years and trying to reimagine how the American government should be. How do you feel about that?
No, I mean, I think it's preposterous. I mean, Donald Trump is not a fascist. Let me ask you a question. Do fascists protect freedom of speech?
No, and he hasn't.
Well, hold on. No, he actually has to such a great extent where he says colleges are not getting money if they don't protect freedom of speech. He's defunding colleges if they don't protect freedom of speech. In fact, Donald Trump has gone out of his way to make sure that all Americans have the freedom of speech. All U.S. citizens do. And so an attribute of fascism is also basically quashing political dissent, as you would say, right? Which political party tried to put the opposition leader in prison for 700 years? Was it Donald Trump or Joe Biden that tried to put his rival in jail for 700 years?
Joe Biden. But I
Yeah,
have a
so
rebuttal
would
to
Joe
that.
Biden be a fascist then?
No.
But you just said that's a hallmark definition of fascism, quelching political opposition. I will go a step further. Wasn't the Democrat Party acting fascistic by indicting Donald Trump on all these charges the first time in American history to basically eliminate the MAGA movement?
It wasn't to eliminate the MAGA movement, it was to get to man. Because Trump himself was doing very shady things. He was having hush money trials, which is true. He's a convicted felon. He tried to keep documents.
Well, he's also your president, so you have to say that as well.
Yes, he is my president.
Okay, good. I mean, again, this whole convicted felon thing is like so preposterous and so ridiculous. But again, your definition of fascism is, as you read it, not just so narrow. Donald Trump is the opposite of that. Do fascists want people to own more guns or less guns?
Less guns.
Yeah, so why would Donald Trump now make it easier for people to own guns then?
But that's not the point.
Well, it is a
Not
point.
everything. That's why I said Trump is not a fascist himself, and this is not a fascist
but it's
administration
just-
yet. There are certain aspects that he's doing that is fascist. He's trying to
It's
make the
just- it's-
centralized power in the executive branch to control everything that's around him.
It's called the
he has a bunch
unitary
of yes
executive theory is not fascistic. Again, just looking around every corner and acting like that's fascist, that fascist. It's so destructive to our discourse because he's the opposite of such a
That's
fascist.
why I haven't said he's a fascist.
No, I understand.
haven't
I know what you're saying.
explained anything.
I would not look at a single thing he's done that is even close to fascistic. It's nationalistic.
Which
it's
is a
Ameri-
definition of fascism.
Not necessarily. You could be a
It's an
nationalist
aspect of
communist.
fascism.
Not true. The Soviets and the Bolsheviks were nationalist communists. You could be a nationalist and not be a fascist.
But you can argue that the communism that was going on there was not real communism. That's
Oh.
not Marxist's thing.
What-
And
what-
I
what-
don't align with communism. But that was more of authoritarian communism.
It was never
Communism.
real communism. That's right.
No,
Like
it
so
was
what,
not real communism.
What we don't agree on this. So what is your then contention?
My contention is that we are approaching a era in America where we are going to be tested. And now we are getting to a point what's almost as modern day tribalism, which is happening in Africa. I am part Ethiopian. My dad was an immigrant here. He came here legally and did all the steps and all that. But just like in Africa with Ethiopia and their government, Tigray, which is a subsection of Ethiopia, is being slaughtered because of tribalism. They're all part of Ethiopia. Ethiopia used to be 3 countries together: Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. It's modern day tribalism. They split because they didn't want to be part of the tribes anymore. And now we're seeing with the political parties so polarized, we don't even want to talk to each other anymore. Which is why I came out here today.
Thank you for that. Just a super interesting hypothetical one about like division and tribalism. Was there a recent time where a Democrat came on campus and just had an open mic where anyone could disagree with them? Are you aware of that kind of an event?
No. This
Yeah.
is like one of
So-
the first events I've seen.
No, thank you. So the point is it the MAGA movement, like myself, or Democrats that are inviting discourse and speech to try to find common ground?
Well, I feel that you yourself, Charlie, is a person that invites criticism and stuff like that.
thank you for that.
This type of stuff I like. Trump doesn't do that. He doesn't see debate. He more
I
just
would,
says.
I would push back, though. It's Donald Trump who will sit in the Oval Office and take questions uninterrupted for 45 minutes when Joe Biden, couldn't even answer a single question. I know that you're not, supporting Joe Biden. But back to your original contention. I need to forcefully push back on this because there is nothing fascistic about deporting people in your country that are here illegally, securing your borders, and putting your own people first. You're right. We are being tested. I think we're being tested in a different way. We're being tested at whether or not, when the American people overwhelmingly vote for something, are they going to get it? And right now, a group of unelected judges and unelected bureaucracy is trying to stop the will of the popular vote of the American people, which I think is way more dangerous than the boogeyman of fascism in our country right now.
Well, I would say that's not really a boogeyman of fascism. It's just fascistic tendencies that are seeming to get more and more consistent with how Trump wants to run his government. And as for the judges, it's checks and balances. They're there to make sure that, hey, let me check this out real quick and go through all the documents our forefathers have written.
No. The
like
founding fathers
Constitution.
the founding fathers never gave district court judges nationwide injunction power. This is a new thing over the last 50 years. That's fine. We're not going to agree on a lot, but I will say this, that the criticisms that we are the fascists are laughable. Because let me just ask you, and this is just more broadly, and I understand this is not to Trump. How many of you students out there feel as if you'd be graded differently if you come out as a conservative or a Trump supporter? Raise your hand. Look around. Every hand goes up. And so that is the cultural left on Michigan State's campus that will use power to punish a student with their grades because they have different views. That's fascism. That is definitional fascism. And I'm not saying you're defending that, but I want to make sure you're consistent that there are fascistic tendencies more so on the left than anywhere on the right.
Then I want to say this. I am from Texas. We're southern as it gets, conservative as it gets. No matter how many times my city of Dallas goes blue, Fort Worth goes blue, Houston goes blue, we're always going to be red, and I've accepted that. And I don't mind that. But also the
God
same...
bless Texas.
God bless Texas. The same thing that happens here happens at campuses over in Texas. Not UT, because that's Austin.
No, for sure. The campuses are islands of totalitarianism. That's my point, is that campuses, because they're so homogeneously to the left, that even if you go to Alabama, the same thing happens. It's not a red state or blue state issue. It's that these campuses are super, super far to the left as a posture of just ideological diversity.
I don't believe that. Texas A&M, I have several friends that go there. They're all some of my best friends from high school. Very conservative. I see stuff they post on time all the time.
First
and
of all,
it's not exactly...
Come on,
Because
man.
this school's board... I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
it's okay. I got to get to the next question. But 98% of all college professors gave to Kamala Harris. 98% that gave to Kamala Harris. And I don't need to ask the audience because we know it's true. Would you guys say that most professors are conservative or liberal here? Would you say? They're liberal.
Professors,
Yeah.
not the people in power. The school board.
The administration?
Yeah, the administration of the school is what makes the decision. We have a student body here that makes resolutions and says things to the student board. They never listen.
Doesn't
They've never once
doesn't the
listened.
governor appoint the board of regents in Michigan? Is it elected? Okay. Well, then it's. I don't know what the balance is in Michigan.
Exactly. It's elected here. So someone can run on a completely random issue. Like, I remember someone ran because they wanted to reinstate the swim team. There's no swim team here.
Okay.
It's stuff like that. They get elected
But maybe
to
we
stuff
should
and
bring
then
back the swim team.
start
Is that
making-
fascism? I don't know. So.
But they get elected and then they
Fair
don't
enough.
do stuff that's consecutive to the university. They more try to silence stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that's happened on this campus that many people may not know, and they send ambiguous emails and stuff. It's stuff like that. It's not just this university.
No,
It's
that's not my
every
contention.
university
I just
has
want to
its
make.
own
I want to
type
make
of atmosphere.
My takeaway for you is if you're going to try to be pattern recognition with Trump for fascism, look at the American left and do the same. Try to say, huh? Because for example, I mean, something that I think is inherently fascistic and disgusting is when Tim Walz is out there cheering for Tesla's stock price to go down. I mean, it's awful, right? I mean, who does something like that? You disagree with a company and you want to see a bunch of people go out of work?
The same way Trump promoted Teslas by having them on the lawn.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? That's
This-
more American
that's the
jobs,
same
more
thing
American
as-
labor. No, it's the opposite.
That's promoting the stock because people are going to see people in the
First of all,
MAGA movement
hold on.
love Trump and
Wait,
want to do stuff
what-
that's
what-
like him.
one
It's
is
psychology.
One is good for America, more American jobs, more American labor. Tim Walz is cheering for a factory to close. He's cheering for people to go out of work, which I find to be really disturbing. Thank you for your time. I got to the next question. Thank you.
Charles.
Appreciate it.
Good. Hello, how are you doing? Good. So I want to first ask you if you endorse Vivek Ramaswamy for governor of Ohio.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of Vivek hate out there, so let me have it.
Okay. So Vivek tweeted.
And I won't defend everything he's ever said. I'll defend myself, but I can't possibly defend another person. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So he said there are two fundamental differences between cultures and countries, and the difference.
And I disagree with him on this.
And you think that a country is built on culture, blood, soil.
Yes, and a people.
You said previously, even today, that the United States is built on multitudes of ideas.
No, I've said in addition also to people and history and a shared tradition and culture. Yeah.
Okay.
But also ideas. Yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
that's-
ideas are part of it. It's like a stool, right? So you have a stool of ideas, you have a stool of people, culture, history. It all kind of works together. It's like a four-legged stool.
And I would also counter this as well. I'm not specifically counter, but you also said previous with the Netchel. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Cliff Connectal.
Connectal.
Or Connect Lee. Yeah.
And you said it
Good
also.
guy.
You said it today as well that the American government was founded Christian. It was founded as Christians, and it is a Christian system built off biblical text, quoted more than political philosophers in the past. Don't you find that contradictive that you are endorsing your endorsement? is-
Endorsing a Hindu, basically, for office. Is that what you're saying?
Not specifically. I'm saying that if you're arguing that America is built on culture,
Oh, yeah, no,
which
for
is
sure.
European and Christian, is not contradictive to endorse.
That's a fair question. I don't think it's contradictive. Number one, I've got to know Vivek, so I'm very biased. He's become a friend of mine. Number two, what would be better for Ohio? Vivek, who's a Hindu but also a conservative, I think would be an amazing governor, or some like left-wing Democrat who pretends to be a Christian. Of course, Vivek, who's a conservative, and I think would make Ohio a much better and greater state.
I don't think the argument is specifically right versus left. I think it actually tends down to the perception of America, because I don't think that Vivek's, and I'm not making an argument for the left, I'm making an argument against what Vivek, and you have to question what your idea is of an American. Is it rooted in culture? Is it rooted in identity? European identity, is that a part of being an American, or
Yeah.
is it merely just believing that
It's a
America
complicated
is
question.
an idea?
America is not an idea, fundamentally. But I guess I would have to ask you a more provocative question. Is Vivek an American to you?
I think that I think there's an issue though where
Yes
it's
or
the
no?
perception of. I don't think you can answer that with a yes or no, because
Well,
for
I think
one,
Vivek is an American. for the
because he's
record.
because you can make the argument obviously that he was born
He's
in
a U.S.
American,
passport holder.
and he said in the past in an interview that I was born in America as you were, and that makes me just as American as you. I think that there is a degree to understand when you argue that America is built on culture, built on religion, that there is a fundamental principle of a Native American, and I think that the argument of being what is American is different than what Vivek's perception of it is.
I have a different view than he does.
So you also agree, though, but I don't understand.
You could still vote for people you don't agree with everything on. You can still advocate for friends that you think are going to do a great job. And I think he would bring spunk and spirit and energy to the governorship of Ohio and be way better than DeWine. DeWine's been a freaking disaster. I mean, he's been awful in Ohio. And so
I think it's a
he'd be highly capable
thing,
for
though.
that job. And that's fine. That's a component. But by culture, can I just distill this down? Like, do you not want to vote for him or support him because he's an Indian?
I mean, is that something that, I mean...
Because you're saying culture, I want you to be just more explicit. Like,
I believe...
What is the limiting factor that you're saying with culture with him?
Well, I think his perception, I don't think it's specifically like you drew on the fact that he's a Hindu and that he's Indian. I think it's his perception of what is
fine.
American, and he said...
But that's not a deal breaker for me, is the point.
And then I'm saying
And we
that
just disagree.
I disagree
Got
with
it,
that.
fair enough.
And so what I'm saying...
We're not gonna come to agreement then.
Yeah, and so what? And I want to draw deeper on the fact of like what is an American, and he said that American culture is built in laziness, and
I don't share that.
But this is the fundamental principle though, that's what the right. That's what the version of the right is becoming. Is becoming more idealized towards Vivek.
I'm going to do everything I can to not let that happen.
So, but an endorsement of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's still a friend, and we disagree on something, but do I think he'll be a phenomenal governor? Absolutely. Do I think that he has a capability to turn Ohio into what unfortunately has become not the well, actually we're in Michigan, a mediocre state. I could say that up here. Okay, if I said that in Ohio, they'd throw stuff at me. Do I think he has the capability and the versatility? Do I think he loves the country? Absolutely. I think he's a patriot. By the way, I've had long discourses and debates with him privately on this. We're saying, Vivek, I think you're way off base. I don't think like American youth culture, as he put it, is lazy. I think that actually we have some of the greatest untapped potential of people on the planet, of people that have been told that they're small and awful, especially young men. So anyway, a lot goes into an endorsement. You don't have to agree with everybody on that. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Yes. Just a reminder, disagreements can work their way up. We're working on it, right? Great. Thank you. You got a whole thesis there, man.
Oh, yeah, I got a book here.
Yeah, make it quick.
I'll say I'm an engineer, not a politician before I ask this question. I'm also a Christian, but not evangelical like yourself. But Turning Point USA often advocates for America First policies, which I largely agree with. How do you reconcile this with AIPAC's lobbying for unconditional U.S. support of Israel? And I would argue that that is actually prioritizing foreign interest over American taxpayers.
Well, yeah, but we don't take money from AIPAC, so I don't have to reconcile it.
I think that a large part of our government does, though. A lot of different representatives are...
Yeah, for sure. Let's be consistent, though. Are you also critical of the Armenian lobby, the Turkish lobby, right, the Cuban lobby? There's lots of American citizens that have foreign, not just interests, but foreign opinions.
Yeah, and funding is kind of
right?
what you're hinting at.
And
yeah.
so, for example, like I understand there's a lot of criticism against AIPAC. I certainly don't agree with everything they do. I don't think they should have went after Thomas Massey, for example. I think Thomas Massey's awesome. But like the thrust against AIPAC is this idea that they're purchasing politicians, right? Is that essentially the...
Yeah, I would put a priority on AIPAC just because they are so largely funded and they do have such an impact over U.S. government and elections.
Yeah, but I do have to say what I said earlier. I don't want to relitigate the whole thing, but the voters of a lot of these Republicans are very pro-Israel.
Yeah.
So it's easy just to attack the money as if they're being purchased. If in some of these places you came out against Israel, in some of these states, you would get run out of office. You'd get primaried. So your criticism is not about the special interest group of AIPAC, but it's actually the Republican Party that tends to be very pro-Israel.
Well,
the voters is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would say there are some sects too. There's some different examples of Democratic representatives who I might not align with on the majority part, but they were pushed out of their races due to AIPAC funding, like ad blitzing campaigns and stuff.
Which by result I supported, even though by intent I didn't.
Yeah.
You know.
I think we kind
some of these people were awful. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I understand
like,
that.
Like Jamal Bowman was he's like the worst.
I know, but spending tens of millions of dollars to counter these people seems to be kind of sending a message to the rest of the representatives that they can't speak up against AIPAC.
Fair enough, but I do think we have to understand AIPAC is funded by Americans, right?
Yes.
So your opinion, your disagreement is that Americans have views that you don't have, and they're willing to spend money. It's not that's. I mean, it's not. They're not receiving money from a foreign government. If there's evidence of that, I totally don't support it, and they should register under FARA. But like, these are Americans, right?
Yes,
foreigner
they're
cannot
Americans
give-
with a lot of foreign ties is what
Okay,
I would argue.
again, there's a lot of. So I just want to make sure we are consistent, and I'm sure you are. Should the Council for American Islamic Relations also register as a foreign lobbying organization?
I don't have enough knowledge
That's
to
okay,
speak on that.
but,
and
but
I'll
fair enough,
resign
and I'm
my
not trying to
point.
criticize you, but I get asked more about AIPAC than anything else, but never about CARE. By the way, CARE is the Council for American Islamic Relations that is the funding source behind Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. So I just want to make sure that the advocacy is equally appropriated, right? If your whole thing is like get foreign influence and money out of elections, then we should criticize the Cuban lobby, which is huge in D.C. Just so we are clear, if you are a Florida senator and you are like even slightly weak on Cuba, they will take you out before breakfast, okay? So also in California, if you're a representative in the Pasadena area, the Armenian lobby is incredibly powerful there. And so there are a lot of examples of Americans that still have, let's just say, very strong opinions foreign, but for whatever example, AIPAC gets all the attention, maybe for the funding source, but thank you for your
So
question.
would you also argue that you are largely against foreign funding being a part of elections? Are you against these lobbying
there
groups?
there should be no foreign funding, basically.
I agree with that. I think that was kind of the crux of the argument to come to the conclusion that we're all against the foreign funding in U.S. elections. So
For sure.
thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yes.
Can you raise it? Yes, that's great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Ruth. I am so excited to be here today. I'm a huge fan, so this is a special moment for me. But basically, my question is, there are circumstances in the U.S. where little kids come in illegally because of their parents, but they come here and this is their whole life. They have no history in their home country, right? How do we humanely and as conservatives or Christians deal with this in a way that represents our values?
You're not going to like my answer, and that's
Okay.
okay. The whole family unit should be returned back to the country.
Okay, that's what I was tending to think, but
And can I just build it out?
Yes.
So a moral teaching of Scripture is that you do not favor justice for the poor or for the rich. This idea of blind justice. And if we agree it is wrong to do this, and we say, okay, what's the most humane way? It'd be one thing if we say, hey, you separate the family, which ironically, people on the left actually want the family separated.
Yeah.
They say, oh, keep the kids and bring the parents back home. I think that's wrong. I think the whole family unit should return. And here's why, is that these parents, when they brought some of these kids across the border, they knowingly put their kids in harm's way.
that's true.
And it is not fair to the kids of other nations that are not able to legally immigrate into this country just because others were carried across the southern border.
Do you think it would then be reasonable to give maybe these families, and unfortunately due to their parents' decisions, maybe more priority about getting an actual visa or?
No visas. I know. I'm pretty harsh on this,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why. If we compromise on immigration law, then we do not have immigration law.
Okay.
We must be uncompromising in the enforcement of law. Period. And again, if we want to accommodate certain things, then we're basically going to say, hey, this law should not exist, and anybody can come in under any
Yeah.
circumstances. But again, the parents are the ones to blame here, not the U.S. government. The parents brought their kids, and I'm going to say something a little bit provocative, almost as like mini hostages against the
Yeah.
system, where they're like, well, you can't deport me because I brought these
Like a
kids.
safety mechanism.
Yeah, as a safety mechanism. And by the way, just so we're clear, some of these kids are brought across in sex trafficking ways.
Yeah.
Some of them are brought in very cruel and unusual ways. And so, again, people don't always love that answer, but
Yeah. I guess my next question to that would be, I'm trying to think. I just, because they have no, maybe they don't even, their first language is English. They may not even speak their native language. And you said that it was, because that's the law right now, that we don't allow immigration inside.
Yeah,
but
it's
in
8
the
USC
past
1312,
presidency,
yeah.
maybe when they came in, that wasn't the case.
Yeah,
So
no, that's- well-
and I don't agree with that was the way it was during that time. But then shouldn't we maybe allow those people to stay because that was acceptable
Got it.
in that
So
moment?
If you're 25 years or younger, it's been
Okay.
it's been the law for about 25 years. right? So
Yeah.
about like 2000, 8 USC 1312.
I
is
guess
the law.
saying just like in the last presidency, it was just so like chillax, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so look, like let's just talk about something that's going to be a huge task, because what you're
Okay.
talking about is still a hypothetical in some
Okay.
ways, because you're talking about people that might have been here for 10 or 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
The more important and one that's going to be a huge lift is getting all 14 million people that came across in the last 4 years. They do know another nation. They do know another home.
Yeah.
We're not even getting the people that are 18, 20, 25. We're talking about trying to get 14 million people that were bum rushed across the border in the span of 4 years.
Okay.
Every single one of those people should be returned back to their country of origin and deported from the
Okay.
United States.
I agree with that as
Yeah.
well. So
Thank you
I
for
have
your
nothing
time.
else to
Do you want a
say.
hat?
Yes. Can I have the white? Yes.
Yes.
The white one.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yes.
Hi, Charlie. I'm Alessandra Hayden. I am a high school homeschool student. I'm a senior this year, so I have no affiliation with any colleges or MSU. My question is, and I've seen your signs, you agree with the MAHA movement. You make America healthy again. Do you agree that RFK has been bought and sold, and we are not getting what we voted for, or what we have accepted?
Oh, no,
in?
it's way too early to say that. Way too early.
Is it? Because the major thing that's happening now is. Go closer. Okay, thank you. The major thing that's happening right now is RFK just stated publicly that measles vaccine is the only way to stop the outbreak.
You said it's the best way. Right.
Okay. Well, the best way, doesn't that kind of mean the only way?
No, in fact, RFK, first of all, thank you for being here. I know it's a high
Thank you.
schooler, and so I don't want to be very gentle with how I respond. Just so you know, RFK has also rushed vitamin A shipments to the measles outbreaks, which vitamin A helps a lot. He's also rushed steroids, otherwise known as budesonide, that helps people breathe. Bobby Kennedy is the top leading public health official, and as the top leading public health official, it is proven that if the MMR vaccine does not hurt you, which it might, it actually is very effective at stopping the spread. However, there's serious questions about whether the MMR vaccine is dangerous or not. So what he said is factually true, and I say this as someone who's a great skeptic of public health authorities.
I agree with that, in that stance. Would you agree, I guess flipping, for during his campaigning, in a way, to get into the health, would you say that he got false support, like put out some false claims to get influencers and celebrities of like saying that we are in support, and then we're not really seeing anything, and it just kind of all being pushed away?
No, again, it's been he's only been in there for like a month and a half. Just on Tuesday, he announced that there will be the largest study into the causes of autism in American history, and by September, we're going to get some real answers. I think the world of Bobby Kennedy, and just to be clear, he actually went and visited where the measles outbreaks happen, and he alone talking about vitamin A helping with measles, that alone is a major accomplishment. We would never hear that from public health authorities before. So I encourage you to trust the process, and Bobby Kennedy has my support. Thank you very much.
Can I follow up with a question, different question?
Really quick, we got a very long line, and we took a while on.
Okay, I understand. So I'm going to flip it entirely away from. So I watched your Jubilee interview, and one of your major stances was college is a scam. I'm going either into college or away from college, leaning towards not going to college. Would you say that standard first, like from the kindergarten through high school experience, do you feel like it is very biased to get you to college? And then if you don't have it, it's hard to make it in the world?
Yeah, I mean, look, college is super biased. Look, college is good for some people in the audience if you're studying engineering or something technical or something focused. The vast majority of people that go to college are studying anthropology or communications or soft social sciences. And it's not my opinion. The data shows that half the people in this audience, if they get a job, will get a job that does not require a college degree. That shows that rendered basically your entire time here useless. So every person is specific and different. We need more people that are welders, entrepreneurs, HVAC, and people that take risks and start businesses. And also, a lot of these jobs are going to be replaced by AI. Thank you so much. I got to the next question. Thank you.
Can I get a hat?
Yes, thank you. We're going to do more hats. All right, yes, sir.
Hi, Charlie, I love you. I have two things I disagree with you on, though. So sorry, I'm so tossed around. Trump's. You can't hear me with the mask. It's. So sorry. Anyways. No. Ooh. Okay. No more time for the stupid questions. I gotta focus. Anyways. Freedom of speech. I love Trump. Trump is my favorite president in the whole planet, in the whole world. Best president of any nation. Can I get an amen? But I don't believe he's a true man who pushes freedom of speech. Just because you remember when he was in the remember the White House debriefing after he changed the Gulf of Mexico, right, to the Gulf of America? The greatest thing I've ever heard.
Okay, let's get to the question. You think you're funny, but yeah, let's get to the question. So yes, okay, he kicked out the AP. He didn't.
I'm on your team. Don't be mean to me.
No, I got it. I mean, sure.
No,
whatever,
but no.
fine.
Freedom of speech for the most part. Everything else, except for when people were disagreeing with him in the White House, the Gulf of Mexico. When
Yes,
they
but he
kept
did-
saying the
he
Gulf
did
of
not,
Mexico.
I got it. He did not forbid the Associated Press from writing what they want to write. He said that if you're not going to acknowledge official government terminology, you can't be in the White House briefing room. Very simple.
He banned the people from those 45-minute press conferences that you were talking about, though.
Okay, yes, and if they started calling Michigan Wisconsin, you'd do the same. Basically, it's official government terminology of what things are named, and if all of a sudden you start making stuff up, and you're not going to acknowledge official government issued terminology, they have every right to kick those people out of those briefings.
They barely even gave it a week for it to set in.
Well, but the AP made a declarative decision that they were going to defy it. Again, by the way, you and I don't just get to walk into the White House briefing room. It's a privilege, not a right. And so if you don't behave in a way with a code of conduct, the president has the right to not have you be there and ask questions.
With transgender people, you know how like sometimes you'll be like, wait, I'm not making a point about it, but you know how sometimes you'll be like, she when they're now a he? It's the same thing. You're not used to the change.
So renaming Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America is the same as what you're saying.
If that's what you want to say, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Tariffs, though. How are the tariffs going to benefit us? I know they're going to bring manufacturing to the United States, but
well, here in Michigan, your auto industry has been abused and destroyed for years, and tariffs will help bring those jobs back here to the great state of Michigan.
Here in Michigan, we still have a lot of automotive plants.
No, of course you do, but you know what you don't have as much of? This is an important point. You don't have all of the parts that go into the car plants. That's what you guys lost. So what happened is Ford, GM, and Chrysler, they keep some largely symbolic assembly lines. Praise God, a lot of people still have those jobs. But as you know, there's over 1,000 parts that go into a car that need to be assembled, and a lot of those were now made in China or overseas. So so what happened is Detroit used to not just be the place where GM, Chrysler, and Ford make those cars. There were thousands of other factories that used to exist that would do all of the supporting infrastructure going into making these vehicles.
But here's the one thing that I'll say to that is the manufacturing cost here is like undeniably more expensive than wherever we're manufacturing this stuff. The prices of the prices of everything, because the cost of production is going up, it's gonna go up. I'm sorry, I'm fumbling.
It's okay, it can. I mean, look,
it's like an undeniable factor. It's more expensive here.
For now, look, we're going to see the application of AI and mass robotics, but I'm of the opinion I would rather pay a little bit more for an American car if I know it's made by an American and employed by American labor than a Japanese car. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Can I get a hat, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlie.
Thank you.
Love you.
All right, disagreements, guys? Yep.
Okay. Can I start off? Can I get a hat first? Yeah.
You want a hat at the beginning?
Yeah. Okay. So,
Talk right into the mic.
okay, I'm Eric. I've lived in China for a year-ish, so I have a question about tariffs. Yeah, okay. I do have a question about tariffs. How is this supposed to benefit the United States economy when it is clearly going to make things more expensive for us? It's going to offset stuff onto the consumers more than...
Well, I mean, so you've spent time in China. If that's the case, why does China have all these tariffs?
China is only having these tariffs in retaliation
No,
to...
no, that's
No.
not correct. No, the other way around. They had tariffs for the last 20 years. We cannot sell American goods in China. So if what you are saying is correct, why did China have permanent tariffs for 20 years?
I'm not sure. That
Because
is a
maybe it
decision of the
doesn't-
Chinese government that I am not affiliated with.
No, I'm just saying, though, that maybe because tariffs don't actually always do the things you say they're going to do, right? So if you just look at it through a very simple, economic lens, supply and demand, it seems that they'll raise costs. But you know what? If you make a product in America, you avoid a tariff. Definitionally, if you invest in America, you avoid a tariff. These tariffs are a forcing function also to get us to sell our products in other countries. We cannot sell Fords in China, for example. We cannot sell our liquid natural gas in a lot of other countries. This is to try to liberate the market so we can sell American goods in other countries.
All right, I do have another question. If K over F is a Galois extension and the underlying Galois group is the symmetric group S3, is K3 a splitting field for the irreducible cubic monic polynomial over F?
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to answer that question, so thank you. Did anyone understand any of that? Okay, good. And then he just walks away.
Hi, my name's Ryan. I'm actually the VP of a Turning Point chapter
great,
at
good.
Grand Valley, and I consider myself a staunch nationalist, as do most of my friends. And one of my biggest concerns is foreign influence and foreign interests in our government. I believe that our politicians should not be allowed to hold dual citizenships or own stocks that are largely, like, they shouldn't be able to own stocks in Chinese manufacturing companies, in French wine companies.
Or have multiple passports.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm saying that many of my conservative friends believe that Israel has a lot of undue influence just by the fact of
We've done this like
Yeah.
4 or 5 times, so I mean, yes.
I know.
But what is your question?
My question is, do you agree that American politicians should not be allowed to have dual citizenships?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Thank you very
much. Appreciate it. I will answer any question, guys, but the obsession with Israel is really interesting to me. It's really something. Yes, it's the number one question I get, I have to say, yeah.
Hey, Charlie. I'm just wondering, on your take on immigration, how would you feel about a 20 to 40-year moratorium? No visas, green cards,
I
citizenship,
think
anything.
5 years is a good, we could start and measure it up. I mean, I don't know, we don't know what the world's going to look like in 20 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. How long do you think it would take for someone to become naturalized?
Oh, it should take longer than it currently does, yeah.
Well, how long do you think it
I don't
takes to
know.
become fully Americanized? Because I would say,
Oh, I see.
I'd say a generation, and I think even
Probably.
that's iffy. So I think we should stop it for a 20 to 40 years.
Here's what I will say. The need for immigration is going to almost disappear soon because of artificial intelligence and robotics. Almost all of the arguments are, well, they're going to do the jobs we don't want to do, blah, 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 blah. All those arguments are about to go away because we're going to have mass application of advanced robotics very soon.
Okay, another question. I've been doing a lot of research and ordered the book The Bell Curve by Charles Murray. How do you feel about that?
That's good. There's a chapter that's awfully controversial around IQ.
Well, the whole book's about IQ. And on
Well,
that
no, the
note,
whole-
do you
no,
think...
Well, there's one in particular.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's like chapter 9.
13. Do you
Oh,
think
13,
that
there you go.
we should replace college degrees with IQ testing to increase class mobility?
Standardized tests and IQ tests, yes. I think standardized tests are really good. You know, it's interesting. I think we should get rid of the college degree requirement at a lot of jobs and say instead, can you take a standardized test and an IQ test? Do you know they got rid of that post-COVID because it was racist?
It was 1971.
Well, no, we did it again in 2000 as far as an informal practice to get rid of it. I think we should absolutely bring back IQ tests.
Okay. Could I get a hat? Could I
Yes,
get the
you
red
can.
one?
Thank you.
Could
You
I
want a
get a-
signed one?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. She wants the signed one, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Charlie.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hi, so my name is Paige, and this is my twin sister, IVF.
Wow, okay.
Alex.
Okay.
We have two older sisters that are also IVF.
Okay.
So this is about IVF, of course. So I'm particularly neutral on the topic. I don't want to have like a forced opinion because like my entire family's kind of become a product of IVF.
Are you guys surrogacy too, or just IVF?
Just IVF.
Oh, just
Yeah,
IVF.
just IVF. But I watch your videos. And so I've noticed that in one of your videos, you do mention that you are okay with IVF, but you're morally against it. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a little bit deeper than that, but I have a lot of problems with IVF, albeit while acknowledging the fruit. I'm glad you're both alive.
Thank you.
And so that must be celebrated. So it's I'll explain the difficulty, but please continue.
Okay, my part one of my question is just as someone who was conceived through IVF, why should I also be morally against it?
Good question. Okay, so as a pro-lifer, first and foremost, we have to have an issue with the discarded fertilized eggs that happen during IVF. That's why you guys are twins.
Yep.
Is because during your creation process, if I can be provocatively blunt, you lost a lot of your siblings.
Yes.
Right? Am I correct in saying that?
So for our older sisters, they had 6 embryos in their batch. 2 came out, of course, but for us, there were 3, and then 2 came out.
Yeah, and so that's my first problem, is that it definitionally is saying, like, we're going to discard life to get to life. Yeah. I have a problem with that. So
I do agree, but in a certain way, So in a certain way, those embryos, like, say they weren't going to become anyways, but at least we were trying because they were going to be raised in a house where we are pro-life and we really wanted to be able to have kids and cherish that. But by taking that loss, they were able to have at least us out of the 3. At least they could have the 1. So it's kind of, I don't know where I'm going with that.
I understand what you're saying. So there's a pro-life way to do IVF, which is only implant the eggs of which the children that you actually want to raise. And so, by the way, you have a lower likelihood of working because in your case, it would be maybe 2 or 3. For example, the way that the IVF doctor will sell it is like, look, here's 6 embryos. You'll be lucky if 1 or 2 implant to the uterine wall. Let's see what happens. Now, in certain cases, 4 implant to the uterine wall and you get quadruplets, right? Yeah. Right. Which is what happens. I find that to be a little bit creepy, to be honest, that a doctor can kind of call shots on what life is going to live and not live. And I find that to be directly contradictory to my pro-life stances. Let me go to my second point, though, which makes it even more difficult. I think it's a human rights violation if there are millions of fertilized eggs just sitting in freezers right now. Those are human lives. If we're pro-life, we believe those are human lives, and they're just kind of in freezers right now. So I have a problem with that. But I don't deny the fruit of how amazing people can be a result of it. Third, though, and I think this is most important, there's a great book called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which I encourage everyone to check out. In Brave New World, he hypothesized in the first chapter that there will be a day where human beings can be created without sex. And he wrote about in very vivid novel form what is wrong with that. So IVF is actually the 180 opposite of birth control. So birth control is sex without life. IVF is life without sex. So it's the exact opposite. So, and here's my final problem with IVF, and it's actually in a pro-IVF way. The people who do IVF are actually the most pro-life people because they want babies. Exactly. They're the last people that would walk into an abortion clinic. Exactly. So further complicating this very big issue. So would I want to make it illegal? No, but I have serious humane issues with that. I also think it's like the further Frankenstein monster kind of like we are going to control nature. Like we're resurrecting old species of dire wolves, like we're doing gene editing of CRISPR. I don't think we should play games with nature as if we are God Almighty. I think that's a terrible idea. I think that's how you get the worst civilizations. So all that to say, the last thing is, second to cancer, the worst thing a human being can suffer with mentally is infertility. It's a proven fact. It creates more depression, more anxiety. So there's no easy answer to that. So my advice to pro-life couples that want to do it, try to push back on the doctor and say, we're going to trust God, and we only want to implant the embryos that we would be comfortable raising. Do not act as if it's like a roulette table. Like, look, we're going to lose some of them, and I know we're not going to raise all those kids. If you fertilize the egg and then it doesn't attach to the wall with the full intent of raising those kids, that's more morally justifiable, other than we're going to throw 6 ones up against the wall and see which ones stick. That one I find to be bordering on eugenics. I know that sounds to be a provocative statement, but it is. Basically, we're going to kill 5 to let 1 live. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And albeit, you guys are going to have a great life because of IVF, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I do have another, just like one more. What would it take for you kind of like answered it, but what would it take for you to be like borderline morally okay with IVF?
Yeah,
if we are able to.
I think I've articulated it. It would largely invalidate the IVF. And what I've just articulated would make the IVF outcomes go down dramatically. Because the reason why IVF outcomes are able to be successful is that each round of IVF, if it does not attach to the uterine wall, the doctor says, well, we did 6, let's do 10. And let's do 15. Let's do 25. Now that's extreme, but it does happen where they want a baby so badly, they're just going to throw everything they possibly can. So what ends up happening is then they give the mom a progesterone, which then basically makes the uterine wall, quote unquote, sticky during her time of ovulation, which then can make the baby then attach to the uterine wall. No easy answer. I think so. Last final point. Infertility, I think, is a symptom. It is not in itself a sickness. Infertility, I think, is a symptom of terrible diet, of genetic issues that we're not able to necessarily understand. And in my opinion, I think there are toxins that are poisoning us, that are artificially lowering testosterone rates. And young ladies, I'm going to get so much hate for this. If you never want to deal with infertility, be very careful taking the pill. The pill has a lot more downsides than they will ever tell you. Be very careful. As a man, I know I'm not allowed to say that. There's a lot of downsides to the pill. And am I allowed to say it? Thank you.
Yes, you are. Yes,
because
sir.
the pill will dramatically increase your likelihood of going to an IVF industry clinic. Do you want to know the even more sinister take? If I was just caring about profit, I would try to get a bunch of 14-year-old girls on a birth control pill to addict them as an annuity, have them not want to have kids till their 30s, then they're infertile, then they have to come to me and buy IVF services. That's only if you'd want to make a bunch of money, though. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you both.
Maybe please.
Yes,
both
you
get
get two hats because you're twins.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's everyone doing today?
Good. Thank you both. God bless you guys.
You too.
That was a great question.
What's going on, man? I've been watching your videos since high school, so it's kind of crazy to go full circle in college, man. So how you doing today? Good. So I want to talk to you, and I don't want to misquote you, so if you could just restate your opinion. Oh, sorry. If you could just restate your opinion on this. You said that, obviously the auto industry here has been weakening over the years, and that you said these tariffs are going to help. Is that right?
Will almost certainly help the auto industry specifically, correct? Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, we've all seen the estimates that have been coming out where prices on cars are going to go up by 25%, 50%, right? And obviously, you know that components sometimes travel multiple times between a country on the borders between Canada, Mexico, and so on just to get to these auto manufacturers. My point is, if a car, right, if the cost goes up, demand will go down, right? And then obviously supply will go down, right? Because that's the basic law of economics. And then at that point, if I don't have a high demand and I don't need to create a high supply to supply that, won't I need less workers?
Smart take. Number one, just so we remember, we saw car prices go up dramatically during COVID. Do you guys remember that? Because there was a chip shortage.
No, 100%.
No, I just want to make, and by the way, we endured that. And I'm not one to try to say we need higher prices because people are getting crushed. But I just want to have everyone remember, during COVID, we saw nearly a 50% increase in car prices, and it almost received no national news coverage. In fact, used cars were going more than new cars in certain markets because of, this specific chip shortage. The one thing I will say, though, is that I think you're underestimating America's consumer drive and the built-in demand for vehicles and new vehicles. I think actually demand will largely stay stable. I don't necessarily think prices are going to increase as much as you think. Because remember, these tariffs are on those made in foreign countries. Toyota makes a lot of their vehicles here. Those are not going to be tariffed. Hyundai makes a ton of their vehicles here. Honda just opened up a new facility, I think, in Kokomo, Indiana. And so the tariffs are a forcing function. I'm willing to play it out. Here's why. I know how Michigan has suffered economically. Detroit used to be the wealthiest city in America. It's a fact.
No, I agree.
It was a crown jewel. In fact, you look at the library, you look at the old buildings of Detroit, it's like going through ancient Athens, how much money used to be flowing through here. And now I think it's worth us saying, wait a second, what did we trade to get rid of that? And it very well might not work out, to your point. I think it's very well worth the experiment because it's one that people voted for.
Gotcha. No, but I understand about that. But if we look at the demand for automobiles, right, during COVID, that was largely in part for secondhand vehicles. People weren't buying them because, if we remember correctly, like a lot of these dealerships were like gouging the hell out of these new cars that were coming out. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, demand is going to be there, but it's going to be for a different hand market. And like, I agree. It's great. Toyota, Ford, GM, all these guys are making their cars here, but still a lot of these components come from other countries. And
that is true.
Yeah. So
I grant you all of that. I don't want to be overly ideological. Sure. It could work out. I think in part, employing more American labor is a net benefit for the American people. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for your time.
Can I get a hat?
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Thanks for your
Thank
time,
you.
Man. Appreciate it. Thanks, boss.
I will wait.
Thank you.
Shush, 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 shush. I'll wait. I'll wait. If you want me to talk, you're gonna have to be quiet for a little bit. Shush, shush, shush. Quiet coyote. Quiet coyote. You know what? I can wait here for the quiet crowd to quiet down. Y'all wanted to hear me.
Y'all
wanted to hear me.
Let it rip.
Come on. All right. Hello there. So, with me I have a sign here. True Christians love everyone. Would you say you believe in this sign?
Yes, but define love.
Define love? It's a respect. You respect someone enough to not judge them, to not hate them for what they're doing, no matter what it is.
Do you lie to people you love?
Do I lie to people I love? Not often enough. And I don't lie about
Should we, in the ideal, when you love somebody, should you lie to them?
Depends on the lie. So, let me give an example here. Say, do you have a sibling? Say you have a sibling and they have a dress on and it is just ugly, the ugliest thing you've ever seen. Are you gonna tell them that dress is ugly, you need to change it, you horrible person?
Yes. In fact, I'll do it in a way that is filled with love, but I love my sister so much that if she's gonna leave the house and be made fun of, I won't let her do that, because that's what love is all about. You see, love
But are
is
you
not...
going to make her feel ugly saying that?
Well, no, in fact...
How would you say it to make them not feel ugly?
I would say, listen, I care a lot about you. I think that maybe you should change that outfit, or let's see what other outfits
What
you
if
might
she's
have.
like, no, I spent a lot on this, I'm really proud, I think this looks great. Are you gonna say that what she thinks look great doesn't look great to you?
I would say, look, you can obviously wear whatever you want, but I want to caution you that if you wear that dress out in public, it might not be received the way you think it would be received. I would be remiss not to say that if I actually loved my sister. I'd be remiss because love is not affirmation. Love is not confirmation. Love is making sure that you care so much about the other that you're willing to challenge and point out flaws when you see them and have the courage to articulate it. That's what love is, as embodied by Christ our Lord. Because you have true love right there. And
what? I can't have my hand in my pocket.
so true love is truth, spoken in love.
So, would you say then that believing that homosexuality is a behavior then, you consider it a loving behavior to tell a homosexual that they're just wrong with what they believe?
That's not my opinion. It's what the scriptures teach. You have a cross in front of you, so I will talk to you on scriptural basis. The Bible says very clearly that the behavior of homosexuality is a sin. I don't make those rules. I didn't design that. I'm simply telling you what the scriptures say explicitly.
But they also say to love your enemy.
Yes, how do you love somebody, though? You love somebody by telling them the truth. You see, you are conflating love with acceptance. They are two completely different things.
So do you think we don't have an accepting God then?
We have an incredibly accepting, judgmental God that gave us an intermediary, his son.
So then is it your job to judge people?
Well, hold on. To not judge is a
It's
very,
a yes
very...
or no question. Do you judge?
No.
Is it your job to judge people? Yes or no?
We absolutely should judge people, but we should not eternally judge them. That's God's job. That's what that scripture is talking about.
When you have you damned someone to hell? Have you considered somebody who is something
I don't
different
have the
from you
power
as
to do
someone-
that.
But have you considered it? Have you thought in your mind that someone who is homosexual is going to go to hell? That's a question for everybody
I've
here.
never even said that. In fact, if someone...
I didn't say did you think it. I didn't say did you say it. I said did you think it.
Even if I thought that, that alone is not even comparative, because homosexuality is a sin just as adultery is a sin, or as stealing is a sin, or coveting is a sin. They are all sins. I'm not trying to single out a single sin, but when asked or presented, what does my faith teach about this particular behavior, I'm going to give you a morally clear answer.
So what faith do you practice then? Because you say Christianity. Do you have a specific sect?
It's like evangelical, basically.
This is over then.
Where did Bob Ross go? I hope he accepts Jesus in his heart.
Hey, Charlie. My name is Samwise, and I come here...
Samwise Ganges.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for noticing. So my question is about Christianity, and so I see a lot of Christians saying that there are certain verses in the Old Testament that we shouldn't hold to the standard of Christianity because they're in the Old Testament.
It's a great question.
But there's a verse, Matthew 5:17, that says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." And that's what Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount. And so how do we refute this as Christians? Like, how do we refute that the Bible does not condone
It's a phenomenal question.
bad
So,
things in the
book
Old
of
Testament?
Colossians, it says the ordinance of Moses were nailed to the cross. So there are 3 types of laws. So there are 613 laws of Judaism, okay? There are 3 types of laws. There are the moral, there are the civil, and then the ceremonial. The ceremonial, we are not bound to as all. Eating kosher, the feast days, having 4 strings basically outside, wrapping your arm in a specific way to pray at a specific time. We are not called to the ceremonial laws. The civil laws must become deeply under our consideration to employ, such as, ceremonial laws of should we have the death penalty or not. We're not bound to them, but we should heavily consider it. We are bound to the moral laws. The moral laws are basically the 10 Commandments. All of which, except one, the Sabbath, which is repeated but not in explicit form, was repeated by Christ our Lord. Don't take any other gods before me. No idols. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. Right? Honor your mother and father, so you may live long in the land of which you are in. For 6 days you shall work, and for the 7th day you shall rest. Do not murder. Do not take false witness. Do not steal. Do not commit adultery, and do not covet. Those 10 basically moral laws remain a constant through Christian theology.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a hat?
Yes, thank you. Thanks. We'll go a little bit longer, guys, then I got to dash.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
It's a great campus. You guys have been great. You've
What's
been
up,
wonderful.
Charlie? My name's Eric. I came here to ask
Yes.
you if you think that due process is being ignored when it comes to deportation.
It's a complicated question. So yes, the Supreme Court has ruled that due process is a right given to people here illegally. However, it's more complicated than that because we're not clear if that meant while someone was illegal on soil and they committed a crime. So let's pretend that someone was an illegal immigrant and they committed murder. They get due process.
Right.
What's not clear is to the extent of due process when they have a deportation notice on their file. That is not clear.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Kinda, yeah. Have you
'Cause
heard
it's-
about the Maryland father that got deported to El Salvador? Like, I think it was.
Yeah, and it was a. To be clear, he wasn't a U.S. citizen.
Right.
It shouldn't have happened, and
Okay.
yeah.
So what's to say that it won't happen to anyone else? Because I think that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, again, I want to be clear. This wasn't just like a Maryland father. This guy was a gang member, but
He was a gang member, but then he was he has a family.
Again,
he's
I'm
been
not
out of the
gonna.
streets.
The Supreme Court ruled he has to be returned, so it was a
Right.
clerical error. Shouldn't have been there. But here's the problem with due process. There's not clear whether or not you've already gone through the court system. You need another whole reinvention of due process.
Okay. What's your opinion on it? Like, what do you think it should be? Like the definition.
I think that, look, if you're here illegally, you should be able to be deported rather quickly out of this country. Period.
Okay.
Not have 3 years of court dates to go through the inevitable deportation.
Okay.
So we got to get to the next question. Thank you very much.
Okay. Can I get a signed hat?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Yes, next question.
Hi there. My name is Jordan, and I'm a third-year chemistry student here at Michigan State. And I have a question. So one of my friends, he's from Canada, and he's here as an engineering student on a visa. Do you think that an individual like him should be deported out of the country, especially with the coming up
I don't know enough
getting
about
rid
him,
of the
but-
Department of Education?
I don't know enough about him, but I mean, I like Canada. I don't think it should be a 51st state, but it's got a lot of problems, though.
That's fair. And then going forward, when you look at the Department of Education and look at it at a federal level compared to the state and local, how do you think FAFSA factors into that?
Oh, that's interesting. It should go into the Department of Treasury. We do give out way too much money in student loans, though. I think, though, that the Department of Treasury should handle all that, but generally we're giving out way too much money in student loans in this country. So.
Perfect.
Thank you. You want a hat?
Yes, could I
All
get a
right,
hat
does
for my
anyone
Canadian
disagree in
friend, too?
line that is remaining? Okay, you do? Can she cut in line? Yes. And then I want to get really quickly to disagreements, guys, because I'm running out of time. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
how do you feel about Trump saying that he would run for a third term? Because that's something I really
Yeah,
disagree with.
I don't think it's there in the Constitution. I think he's trolling people.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All
Want a hat?
Can I get a signed one?
Oh, yeah, I'll sign it for you. Yes. You've been waiting, and then we'll get to the disagreement. Really quick, yeah.
Hi, Charlie. I just wanted to go back to what you said about sex without life being an issue, and I agree with that. But I wanted to ask you, with like a religious perspective, if you think that it's hypocritical of the Catholic Church to practice natural family planning because it's still trying to have sex without life, because that's an issue that I've struggled with.
No, I don't necessarily. I mean, the greater question. So, I'm not a Catholic, so I actually do believe birth control can be used.
I'm not Catholic either. I know my shirt
yeah,
says
it says
that, but I
Catholic
just
that.
represent CC.
And I'm not one to ever point out hypocrisy in the Catholic Church. I do think there is some inconsistency, though, with the lack of birth control. I could talk at length about that. But do I think that birth control is overly used, especially in like premarital relationships? Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Without
Thank
a
you.
doubt. Thank you very
Can I
much.
get a signed hat?
Yes, of course. Disagreement here? Yes, sir.
So, hi, my name is Carl. I'm a Lebanese Christian. I was born here legally. My parents came here legally. I was born in Pontiac, Michigan.
Great.
So,
My wife is half Lebanese. So.
hell yeah. So, you made a point before that if you have a double citizenship, you shouldn't be able to work in politics, which is the only thing I disagree with you on because I'm a dual citizen.
You have to
and
renounce one.
Yeah, but I pay taxes. I work in the U.S.
Fine. You could
I
do
love
that.
the U.S.
But I don't think you should be able to run for office and have 2 passports.
But why not? If my utmost loyalty is to the U.S.
Well, then prove it.
I prove it by working in the
No,
U.S.
then get rid of the other
government.
passport. I'm not trying to nitpick, but look, you could do all sorts of things. I think though you should not be able to have 2 passports and serve in the U.S. government. I find it to be insane because basically, why would you have that passport for any other reason than as like a backup plan?
Yeah, I have that.
And I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying as a principle.
So I have that passport because it's my parents' country. Like I respect.
You could still visit it without the passport.
Yeah, I need a visa though. That's it.
All right. Well, but you have to choose. That's the point. Is that if you're going to be coming to elected office, you have to make a declaration that this is my home. I've burned the boats. There's no backup plan. And I think that's a very reasonable thing for any country to say. Like China would not allow someone in the Chinese government to serve if they have a French passport, right? It would just it begs the question of whose loyalty is it?
But like, doesn't that make me kind of like a second-class citizen? Like, why do I have to pay full taxes if I don't get the full privilege?
We're
of
just talking
working?
about serving in Congress, right? So I don't
Yeah.
know if you ever want to be in Congress.
Yes, I want to be in Congress.
Okay, great. So if you want to be in Congress, I encourage you to get rid of the Lebanese passport. Because it would always beg the question of like, which is your ultimate loyalty? And let me just tell you right now, contrast that with the founding massive immigration that we saw in the early 1900s. They would burn their passports from their native countries when they came to America because they were so happy to be here and they wanted to make a statement that they were part of the United States of America. So, again, you have to tell me more of what you think you would get out of having that passport, other than it just being symbolic.
I can also vote back home.
Exactly. That's the point. Is that you
No,
could
but who
you
says
could have
I
ties
don't-
to the government.
Yeah, but who says I don't vote for what would be an interest for America? Like I voted, like I would have voted back home for.
Again, I don't mean to nitpick you in particular, but
Yeah.
it does beg the question that if you have dual citizenship, your loyalties might be split. And to use a principle of our Lord and also of Abraham Lincoln, a house divided cannot stand. So you just have to choose. It's nothing against you, right? It's just, in my opinion, you should not be allowed to have another passport and serve in the U.S. government. So thank you for your time. Yes, hat, you bet. Last question, and then I'll get you a hat. Don't worry, man.
I got an important family question.
All right,
Be the last.
I'm running out of time. So,
Hi,
yes.
Charlie. I'm Jack. I just want to say I'm a really big fan of you. I agree with what most of you say. As a Christian, I do have to disagree with you on the death penalty, and I know you used to be anti-death penalty, and now you are pro-death penalty. I just want to ask why you switched over, and I just disagree because, you know, God is just, he has so much grace and forgiveness that I feel like we should give even those who have done horrific things to people and murdered, give them chance and to change their heart and soften their heart and say, you know what, God, I do want to change, and obviously stay in prison, but, you know, change their heart in prison so they can spend eternally with God. And
It's a great question. So,
Yeah.
number one, we must remember before I say this that there are the 3 types of Old Testament laws. There's moral, there's civil, and ceremonial. Ceremonial, we're not bound to. Civil, we strongly consider. Moral, we are bound to. It's cool? So the only civil law, the only law actually that is repeated in all 5 books of the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, the only law is that you will take a life if you take a life, meaning that the death penalty for murder. It's the only law repeated. Now, that's a civil law that we must strongly consider. Now, I'm going to give you an interesting argument you probably never have heard. We believe that all human beings are made in the image of God and are image bearers. If you allow murderers to live, it's an insult to the victim. You are basically saying that murderer has more rights than the person that they murdered, that they get to keep on having life, even though that they took the life from a victim. You're definitionally actually diminishing the victim and elevating the perpetrator. Not intentionally, but the only true actual statement of human equality is we care about life so much that the penalty to take a life is that we will give you the ultimate price and consequence because we care about human life.
I just feel like that if you look at God's character, he's just so like he's awesome, great, and his forgiveness. Like we do not deserve his forgiveness. We don't deserve to, be in.
But you still believe in a punishment for them. We're just disagreeing on
prison,
the punishment.
Yes, prison, of course. But I just, if you look at God's character,
but then why did God say to do it 5 times in all 5 books of the Bible? You got to wrestle with that one. Because this is not man's law. This is God's decree. If you take a life, your life shall be taken. And that's what changed my mind. As I studied the Torah more and more, it wasn't just once, it was all over. And the reason being is that the best explanation God would give, or the interpretations, is God values human life so seriously that you must have the ultimate cost and consequence for taking one of his children.
Okay, yeah, I would study that more, definitely, of the first 5 books of the Bible, but I just feel like that when you look at his character and...
It's all good.
Yeah. When you look at his character, it's just like, if, let's say one of my parents was killed by someone, I feel I love that person so much that killed them. Like, I love everyone.
See, I wouldn't. I would have a different opinion.
I love everyone.
If someone
right?
killed someone I loved, I would advocate for the death penalty.
I love them. I love everyone so much that I want them to, come to Jesus and have a personal relationship with them.
What we do find is this, though.
And I would forgive them. I would.
I will pause with this, and with this, because we're out of time. It's 3 o'clock. What we find, though, is that when people lose loved ones, it's the greatest switch where they go from anti-death penalty to pro-death penalty, which honestly is a little bit frustrating because it shouldn't matter if a loved one actually gets killed. It should matter if any human being gets killed. And by not having the death penalty, you are giving the murderer an advantage that the victim no longer has. They should not continue to have life if they took life from somebody else. It's the most just thing that we could possibly do.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
So,
thank you.
Thank you for your time. You want a hat?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big fan.
Really quick, man. You're killing me.
Appreciate you, Charlie. All right, so basically, as somebody who's been a former liberal, but I got shown,
really quick. You got like 20 seconds. Go.
As a former father yourself, how would you guide and advise somebody to, not just guide his own children, but also the future generations into not falling into this insane bullshit ideology that the woke mind virus has given us?
As a father, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, as a father, lead your home. Do your best to be able to earn enough money that your wife does not have to go into the workforce so that she can raise the kids. If she wants to, if she wants to go in the workforce, that's fine. But be the man and try to work the extra shift, work through the night, deliver the income so that your wife can be a mother to the kids. And finally, you are the one that must be the hawk and say no. Dads are there to say no. And as you know, when kids start to become 3, 4, 5 years old, you have to say no a lot. Not that moms can't say no, but they have a different gifting from the Lord. They are more tender, they're more compassionate, they're more long-suffering, whereas we as men must be the issuing and the ordering of masculine discipline. And I will say this, as young men get older, one of the major reasons we have the violence problem in Black America and in inner cities is young men need a masculine figure around so that they can teach them how to use their violent impulses.
Yes, sir.
A man-on-man mentorship. A single mom, God bless her, does not understand what a man is going through. Similarly, a young woman needs a father around so she could see, hopefully, the type of man one day that she will want to marry. And so you as a father must embody both those things at all times. God bless you guys. Thank you, Michigan State. Go Green!